Yesterday marked the beginning of a new chapter for Ahsoka and Star Wars in general because we got so much information, such a vast array of knowledge that we are left to wonder if they are taking a completely new, different step to Star Wars. There's so much Knights of the Old Republic references in there, including star maps, thousands of years ago civilizations creating temples, even HK droids are in the mix, so everything is up for debate. Equally challenging is the new lightsaber from Baylan's skull, something that Huyang specifically mentions when talking to Ahsoka while finding his identity. The droid goes on to say that Baylan chose a relatively unique design for his lightsaber's hilt, stating that no other Jedi had built a similar style of weapon for hundreds of years. In yesterday's episode, we see why this is important. It allows Ahsoka to determine that her new enemy was once a fully trained Jedi Knight, and to conclude that Shin Hati is likely his apprentice. Both Baylan and Shin's lightsabers have been the subject of intense speculation in the months leading up to Ahsoka's release. And this is what's crazy. Sources close to the production allege that the pair would carry previously unseen versions of lightsaber hilts. Baylan's overhauled lightsaber was said to resemble a red Claymore saber, whereas Shin would supposedly pack a thinner pointer blade. Now, according to Dave Filoni, he specifically talked about the duels that happened yesterday. He mentioned the series' emphasis on lightsaber combat in a recent interview, insisting that these sequences will live up to the standard previously set by the franchise because our fans know the difference. Lucasfilm recently released new posters for Ahsoka featuring Baylan's skull holding his lightsaber. While it focuses on Baylan's skull, it also showcases his lightsaber hilt and reveals the orange color isn't the only unusual thing about it. If you haven't noticed by now, let me explain. Baylan's lightsaber has a much longer hilt than most other Jedi and Sith blades. Notice how he is also holding it with a double-handed grip. In olden days, this was traditionally associated with long swords or broadswords in the real world. This goes hand in hand with the rumors that Baylan's lightsaber has an unusual degree of weight to it, making it more like a claymore than a typical Star Wars blade. Now here's the crazy part. If this is indeed the case, the Ahsoka series is introducing a brand new type of lightsaber. The enigma of Baylan's orange lightsaber raises several compelling questions, not least of which is the possible departure from traditional Kyber crystals to power the blade. In the established lore, lightsabers have largely been fueled by these crystals, but Baylan's unique orange glow could be an indicator of a shift, perhaps to colon crystals. Star Wars canon has already suggested that these crystals impart an orange hue to a lightsaber, but the implications could go far beyond mere aesthetics. Why is this a big deal? Imagine Baylan and Shin are akin a new form of Force users, neither Jedi nor Sith. In fact, it is quite clear by watching both episodes that Baylan is the opposite of Ahsoka, tinkering away on the next innovation that will revolutionize the way we understand and see lightsabers. If colon crystals provide new capabilities, let's say increased cutting power, different resonance with the Force, or a greater sense of balance, then this could radically redefine lightsaber combat as we know it. So what could these new lightsabers mean for the grander Star Wars narrative? They could tilt the balance of power, give rise to new forms of lightsaber dueling, or even introduce novel ways to interact with the Force. When the tech changes, so does the strategy, both on the battlefield and in the realm of Force philosophy. All of this makes Baylan's orange lightsaber a fascinating subject, not just as a fan of Star Wars, but also for anyone interested in how technology and innovation can reshape an entire cultural landscape, even if it's in a galaxy far, far away. In canon, orange lightsabers are super rare. Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor show that Cal Kestis can customize an orange lightsaber. In Survivor, there is even a bounty hunter that wields an orange-yellow tinted one. But the craziest one out of them all is another canon instance of an orange lightsaber being used and not well known. In Claudia Gray's novel Master and Apprentice, Obi-Wan briefly wields an orange-bladed lightsaber. This takes place 8 years before Phantom Menace. Back then, Obi-Wan was still a Padawan. Instead of finding a stash of the Kyber crystals that power Jedi lightsabers, they found colon crystals instead, known to those familiar with ancient prophecies as the Kyber that is not Kyber. In this story, Obi-Wan is forced to use his lightsaber against a Pajali guard, but is shocked to see that his blade has changed from blue to orange. In the end, it is revealed that someone switched out the Kyber crystal in his lightsaber for a colon crystal, thinking this would make it useless in combat. This orange lightsaber cuts through a colon-powered shield and wounds the man beneath it. Interestingly enough, if Obi-Wan had been using his regular blue lightsaber, he wouldn't have been able to cut through the colon-powered shield. Now guys, this is also very interesting, their lightsaber techniques and forms. The fact Baylan and Shin will need to develop completely new lightsaber forms to use these unusual weapons. The Jedi and Sith created 7 forms based around their Kyber-powered blades, but Baylan will need to create something new. Something that takes advantage of the phenomenal weight of his lightsaber hilt and crystal. Baylan could possibly adapt Form 7 named Juyo, which is pretty much prolific for its relentless assaults, and as we can see in the trailer, he is pretty relentless against Ahsoka. This certainly means he'll be a challenge for Ahsoka in any duel, because his fighting style will be like nothing she's ever faced before. You see, Form 7 was unpopular during the prequel era, and it means that Ahsoka never really faced it before. In fact, it's well known that Mace Windu mastered a variant of it named Vapad. According to the Sith Lord Darth Treya, the form was both chaotic and erratic, with a heavy focus on offense, using techniques believed to have been rejected from Shi-Cho in the earliest days of the Jedi Order. Juyo use was controversial among the Jedi Order, as many felt that Juyo violated the "there is no emotion, there is peace" tenet of the Jedi Code due to its requirement to fight under the guidance of controlled passion. The Sith, of course, had no such inhibition, and Darth Sidious went so far as to label it a Sith style. We haven't even mentioned Morgan Elsbeth and Thrawn. How will they come into play into all of this? Is this new technology that Baylan and Shin Hati presenting now will be used in some sort of a fashion, some sort of really interesting new tech? The possibilities could be endless. We saw Shin Hati duel with Sabine Wren, and it was a pretty interesting duel to say the least. I mean, Sabine wasn't ready at all, and by what we saw, she uses her lightsaber only with one hand, so meaning her lightsaber is not as heavy and as prolific as Baylan Skoll's. Baylan, on the other hand, as we've seen from the trailer and from the poster now, he uses both hands, and he uses the weight just as George Lucas originally intended. Don't forget, we know that George Lucas really wanted to use these lightsabers in the original New Hope as Claymore swords. Heavy swords that could inflict a lot of damage. It wasn't until later that they adapted it as a one-handed sword, optionally to be used by 2 hands. So Dave Filoni is going back to the original. He is going back to the original idea of George Lucas, at least when it comes to Baylan, because we can clearly see some correlation here. We can clearly see that he is using something else. Maybe he is using a Kyber crystal, but his hilt definitely tells us something more. There is something more to this. Tell me all your thoughts down below.